In March 2025, Hungary officially joined the BRICS economic bloc, a move that stunned Brussels and Washington. For the first time, an EU and NATO member aligned itself with a group seen as a rival to the West. The announcement was celebrated in Budapest, Moscow, and Beijing as a sign of a shifting global order. In Western Europe, disbelief and outrage followed. Hungary's decision shattered the EU's sense of unity. How could a country be both a loyal EU member and a formal partner to Russia and China? Nations the EU considers strategic competitors? The move felt like a deliberate act of defiance from a government long at odds with its European partners. It raised urgent questions about the future of the alliance. The timing was dramatic. Europe was already grappling with the war in Ukraine and political shifts in the US. Hungary's decision was the culmination of years of growing friction with the EU, a story of diverging paths and deepening mistrust. For many, this was the moment the cracks in European unity became a chasm. Hungary declared its intention to play by its own rules, maintaining its seat in Brussels while forging new alliances in the East. This dual allegiance is unprecedented, creating a direct conflict of interest at the heart of Europe. One thing is clear: Europe has entered a new and unpredictable era. Hungary's path to BRICS was a slow drift away from the West, not a sudden break. Since Viktor Orban's return to power in 2010, his vision of illiberal democracy clashed with the EU's core principles. The EU raised alarms over constitutional changes, judicial independence, and media freedom in Hungary. Orban's government argued it was defending national sovereignty and Christian identity, accusing the EU of overreach. This clash of worldviews created a deep divide and mutual mistrust. In Brussels, Hungary became the problem child, often blocking EU foreign policy and resisting sanctions against Russia and China. From Budapest's perspective, EU criticism felt like political attacks on Hungary's values and independence. The government framed the conflict as a struggle for freedom, a small nation standing up to a powerful bureaucracy. This narrative resonated with many Hungarians, fueling support for Orban's turn toward the east. Hungary enjoyed the economic benefits of EU membership while refusing to uphold its political obligations, frustrating other member states. The sense of alienation grew with each new conflict. The government's stance hardened, and the divide deepened. Hungary's pivot was not just about policy, it was about identity. The stage was set for a dramatic realignment. The seeds of Hungary's BRICS membership were sown in years of growing estrangement. The conflict peaked in late 2023 when Hungary passed the Sovereignty Protection Law. The law gave the government sweeping powers to investigate anyone receiving foreign funding. Critics called it a tool to silence dissent and intimidate civil society. Human rights groups and independent media were alarmed by its vague language and potential for abuse. The EU condemned the law as a grave violation of democratic principles. Brussels responded by freezing billions in funding to Hungary. A major financial blow. The message was clear. European money depends on respect for European values. Orban's government saw this as blackmail and proof of EU hostility. Instead of backing down, Hungary doubled down, seeking new economic partners in the East. The law became a turning point, deepening the rift and accelerating Hungary's pivot toward BRICS. The EU's attempt to hold Hungary accountable only fueled the government's narrative of victimhood. The financial pressure pushed Hungary further from Brussels. The conflict over the law marked a decisive break. Hungary's path was set closer to BRICS, further from the EU. The rift was now a chasm. As ties with the West soured, Hungary launched its eastern opening, forging closer bonds with Russia and China. This was more than trade. It was a fundamental shift in Hungary's global orientation. Orban argued that the era of Western dominance was ending, and Hungary needed friends everywhere. Hungary deepened energy cooperation with Russia, signing a long-term gas deal and expanding its nuclear power plant with Russian help. While Europe isolated Moscow after the Ukraine invasion, Hungary did the opposite. At the same time, Hungary became China's most enthusiastic partner in the EU. It joined China's Belt and Road Initiative and welcomed major Chinese investments, like the Budapest-Belgrade Railway. For China, Hungary was a gateway into the EU. For Hungary, China offered investment and an alternative to Western capital. Hungary's refusal to align with EU foreign policy caused constant friction. It refused to enforce international arrest warrants for leaders like Putin and Netanyahu, further straining alliances. These moves damaged Hungary's standing in the West but were seen as necessary by Orban's government. The Eastern opening was a declaration of independence. Hungary signaled it would forge its own path regardless of Western opinion. The realignment was complete. Hungary's BRICS gamble is a high-stakes economic bet. The EU remains Hungary's largest trading partner and source of investment. Key industries depend on access to the European single market, which has fueled Hungary's growth for decades. Billions in EU funds have modernized the country, but with those funds frozen, Hungary is turning east for new capital. The government hopes BRICS membership will bring investment from China, India, and Russia, reducing dependence on Brussels. Critics warn Hungary is trading one form of dependence for another with uncertain benefits. The economic relationship with Russia is lopsided, mostly gas imports, while EU trade is massive and integrated. There are fears of capital flight and new trade barriers if ties with the EU deteriorate. The government imagines Hungary as a bridge between East and West, but the risks are enormous. Giving up secure EU ties for the promise of BRICS investment is a leap of faith. The future of Hungary's economy hangs in the balance. Will the pivot pay off, or will Hungary end up isolated? The stakes could not be higher. Hungary's pivot to the east has split both Europe and Hungary itself. Supporters of Orbán see BRICS membership as a bold defense of sovereignty and a path to prosperity. They believe alliances with Russia and China will bring investment and energy security. For them, this is about breaking free from Brussels and reclaiming national destiny. The narrative of strength and independence resonates deeply. Critics, however, see the move as a catastrophic mistake and a betrayal of EU values. They fear Hungary is turning its back on democracy and risking isolation. Opposition parties and civil society warn that dependence on Russia and China is more dangerous than on the EU. The erosion of democratic institutions at home is cited as proof of a dead-end path. The political atmosphere is tense, with the 2026 election seen as a battle for Hungary's soul. The choice: continue the Eastern opening or repair ties with the West. Hungary stands at a crossroads. The nation's future, and Europe's, hangs in the balance. Hungary's BRICS membership is one of the gravest challenges the EU has faced. It's not just a policy disagreement, it questions the bloc's identity and purpose. The EU was built on shared values and a common destiny. Hungary's move strikes at the heart of that vision. Now, a member state has institutional ties to powers working against European interests. The crisis exposes a weakness: the unanimity rule, which lets Hungary block collective action. How can the EU have a coherent strategy toward Russia or China when Hungary is in their camp? Some call for harsh consequences, even suspending Hungary's voting rights. Others warn this could push Hungary further away and set a dangerous precedent. The debate over how to handle a renegade member is now central to the EU's future. Hungary's choice reflects a larger global shift toward a multipolar world. The country is trying to benefit from both East and West, but the risks are immense. The trial of European unity has begun. Its outcome will shape the continent for years to come.